Kakalosh Boker Tov. Today's Masechet Pesahim Kuf Yud Bet 112. This is 112. We are going to start, if you remember, just on the bottom, where it said that if somebody is going to come and they're going to drink water from tzalachot that they bring on themselves, something which takes away the eyesight. Man deshate maya betzai. If somebody's going to drink water from these types of plates, it's going to bring upon themselves this type of a sickness, which is going to bring problems in their eyesight. The achil tachle, if they're going to eat cress, right? Velo mashiyade, and they don't wash their hands afterwards. Mefachet latin yomin. They are going to be afraid for 30 days. So says the Gemara on Kuf Yud Bet Amud Aleph on the top, it says over there, the misocha velo mashiyade. If somebody's going to bloodlet, he's going to take out blood from his shoulders, and he does not wash his hands, mefachet shiva yomeh. He's going to be afraid for 7 days. The shakil mazi velo mashiyade. He's going to be mistaper. He's going to take a haircut, and he does not do netilat yadayim. Vechet lata yomeh. He's going to be afraid for 3 days. The shakil tufre velo mashiyade. He's going to cut his nails and he doesn't wash his hands afterwards. He's going to be afraid for 1 day. But he doesn't know from what he's actually afraid of. By the way, you should know this is actually brought down in Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah, right? At the end of, I don't remember if it was Siman Daled, I think it was, in the Shulchan Aruch or Chaim, there it's brought down these halachot, which means that if a person does all these things, he has to be careful to wash his hands afterwards. Okay? The Gemara says, Yeda Ausya, somebody that's going to always put his hands on his, here it says it's samuch lenechirav, beside his finger, beside his nose. Darga lefachta, so that's like a sulam, right? It's like a ladder, and therefore he's going to be afraid of a ruach ra that goes on top of it. Yada puta darga leshinta. He's going to put his hands on his metzach. It's a sulam that sheina will come on him. Meaning if a person wants to start going to sleep, always put your hands like this, right? And that's what happens. Many times when a person wants to sleep, what does he do? And then he just starts falling asleep. No, I see people laughing. I see these, there are experts here. I think the best segula is not putting your hand on top, telling the rabbi to speak. The rabbi speaks, segula to fall asleep. That's all that you need. Fine. Tana. Yeah, we learned in a braita. It says, Ochalinu mashkin tachat amita. Yeah, it says over here, right, as follows. It says, if you're going to have food and drink, which is going to be underneath the bed, afinu mechupim, even if it's going to be covered, bechli barzel, with an iron utensil, ruach ra shora lehen. There's a ruach ra on it. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a braita, lo yishte adam mayim. A person should not drink water without a candle, meaning in the darkness. Lo b'leil reviyot, not on Tuesday nights, lo b'leil Shabbatot, not on Friday nights. Im shatab, if a person did namo b'rasho, why? Because of the sakana. Which means that in those nights, it says here, it's as if that he caused his own death if he's going to drop dead all of a sudden. Why? It says over here that it's a sakana. My sakana. What's a sakana? It says the Gemara, ruach ra. The ruach ra is a sakana. Okay, so therefore, a person should not drink without any candle, without seeing anything. Okay? V'im tzache maitakante. Now, if a person was thirsty, right, at nighttime, so what's he going to do? Yeah? Give me 1 second. I apologize. So basically what happens now, it says that if a person's thirsty, what's he going to do? So he says, Leima shiva kolot shamar David alamayim. So you have to start saying the 7 different kolot that was said on the water, right? Which we're going to bring down now. V'hadar nishte, and then you're going to drink. Because it says, Kol Hashem alamay, right?
The water that we spoke about, lo b'yemei revi velo b'yom Shabbat. When is that water that you cannot drink?
On Tuesday night and on Friday night. But again, we're talking about without a candle in the darkness. It says here b'choshech. The Rashbam says it's b'choshech, without a candle. Yeah, that means you're allowed to drink water, right? Again, if there's a lighter candle, so you could drink water anytime. If there's no lighter candle, you could always drink water even at night, except for Tuesday night and Friday night. Why? Because of Ruach Ra. Now the Gemara says, but what happens if a person's thirsty? What's he going to do? It's Friday night. The candle's turned off. What's he going to do? He's thirsty. So he say the 7 kolot, which David HaMelech went and he said, Alamayim, and then he drinks. שנאמר, כל השם על המים אל הכבוד אלים, השם על המים רמים, כל השם בכוח, כל השם בהדר, כל השם שברזים, השם בדד לבנון, כל השם חוצב לעלות, כל השם יחיד מבעד, כל השם יכול לעלות. Right? So therefore there were 7 kolot which were said on the water. So you say the 7 kolot and then that's it. Okay? So that's very, very important. So now, says the Gemara as follows. Says the Gemara, V'ilo, let's say you cannot say the 7 kolot. So Lema Hachi, this is what you're supposed to say. Lul shafan anigron anirdafin, ben kochve yativna, ben beliesh shmene azilna. So if you're going to translate it literally, a lul is usually like a chicken coop. It's like a... But a shafan is the one that we don't know what it is. You know, it's like a type of like a rabbit or hare. Anigrona nirdafin. Ben kochve yatvina, it's sitting in between the stars. Ben beliesh shemene azilna. Between fat people and skinny people, he's going. What does that mean? It says here, kavana, it's like, you know, take for yourself something else. Just like, you know, take for yourself something fatter or something, but, you know, leave me alone, as if to say. Okay? Vilo. Now, what happens if you can't say this lachash either? If you have somebody else, wake him up and tell him, Planya bar planata, Ploni, the son of Plonit, Tzachina Maya is thirsty to drink, Vahadar nishte, and then go and drink. I guess what he's trying to say is that once he's coming and he's waking up the other guy, and he's using his name and his mother's name, he's showing all the ruchot raot, right, that he's not by himself. So since he's not by himself, they don't bother him. Meaning if he's by himself, it's a problem. But if he's not by himself, right, so then they don't bother him. So he's going to come and wake people up, right, to show that, you know, don't bother me. Yeah, I'm with someone. Vilo, and if not, which means that he can't do that as well, right? Mekarkesh nachtema achatz b'aban nishte. Yekashkesh v'yayish im hamichseh shel hachavit. Start making noise with the cover of the chavit of the barrel, right? And then afterwards drink. Vilo, and if not, ya nishte ba midi v'hada nishte. Throw something in the water and then to drink. Okay? Some people say to spit in the water, you throw something in the water and then you drink. Fine. Tanu Rabbana, we learned in a Braita. Lo yishte adam mayim, lo mina nadov, lo mina agamim balayla. So here, it's every night. That's what it sounds like now. A person should not drink from the river. I apologize, yeah? So it says now as follows. It says now a person should not drink water from the rivers or from the swamps at nighttime. It's mashma here all the time, because the Braita above only prohibited on Tuesday night and Friday night. But that's drinking water from a utensil. But if you're drinking it from the river or from a swamp, it's going to be asur every single night. Okay? So says the Gemara, V'im shata, if you do drink from the river or the swamp, tamo berosho mipnei sakana. Because of sakana, what's a sakana? Sakanat shavrire. A person could become blind. That's what it says here, Rashbam. Okay. V'itzache, now if a person really needs to drink, ma'ita, what's he going to do? If he's got somebody else with him, you should say the same thing that we said above. Planya bar planata tzachina maya. Ploni bar plonit is very thirsty, meaning, you know, fulano, the son of fulana. Yeah, is thirsty for drinking, to drink, right? V'lo, and if you can't do that, you should say, Planya amra li'imi, right? Ploni, which means he's saying his own name. Amra li'imi, my mother said, is daher mi shavride, be careful of shavride, shavride, beride, rire, yire, irei. So basically, he's breaking down the word from shavride, which is basically blindness. Even every single time, he's breaking it down to less and less of the letters. The first one was mi shavride. Then shavrire, berire, he took off the shin. Rire, he took off the bet. Yire, he took off the resh. Rei, he took off the other resh. Right? He kept on taking off things. Right? Yirei, the other yod. Tzachina mai bekasa chivare. He's thirsty to drink, right, from a cup of cheres, which is a new cup. Fine. Nekuda, we're on the 2 dots. The 2 dots say on Kuf Yud Bet Amud Aleph, 112a1. Not A1, but 112a. Says the Gemara, so a person should not have less than 4 kosot, and even if he's getting food from the tamchui, from the food platter, right? He cannot have less than 4 cups of wine, even if he's accepting. So says the Gemara Pshita, obviously, every single Jew is obligated in 4 kosot. What are we dealing with? Even according to Rabbi Akiva, that he says, which means you should make your Shabbat into a weekday, not required to depend upon other people. Hacha over here, Mishum Pirsum Enisa, because of Pirsum Enisa, Modeh Rabbi Akiva is going to be Modeh, right, into what he's doing. He's going to be Modeh that you should still get the 4 kosot because of Pirsum Enisa, right? Because of the publicizing of the miracle. Tana of Eliyahu, we learned in the Academy of Eliyahu Navi, right? This is Tana of Eliyahu. Even though Rabbi Akiva said, make your Shabbat into a weekday and do not rely upon people, but you are allowed to do a little bit for Lichvot Shabbat. So here it says that you should actually prepare something for Lichvot Shabbat, even if it's going to be Davar Mu'at, which means, that means even though it's not fitting to do that, right, in order to start adding on, whether it's another Suda and things like that, if you can, even if it's a little bit, you should do that in order that you are able to. So you add on a little bit of something. Okay? You should do within your house. I mean, even if a person needs to, right, he's going to do this. What is the Davar Mu'at? Amar Papa says, Kasa di Hirsena. We're talking about daging tanim, small little tiny fish, right, which are going to be fried in oil. So now says the Gemara, Kilitznan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema says, a person should be as bold like a leopard, kal, swift, like an eagle, ratz katzivi, running like a deer, v'gibor kari, and strong, right, like a lion. Which means you should be mitchazek b'mitzvot more than what you're able to do. Yeah, you should always do above and beyond. It's actually in this week's bulletin, by the way, right? You have that. Okay, fine. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. I think it's my friend that speaks about it. That you always have to do above and beyond. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Shivat varim tziva Rabbi Akiva et Rabbi Yoshua beno. There were 7 things that Rabbi Akiva commanded Rabbi Yoshua, his child. Number 1, Beni, my child. Al teshev begova shel hir v'tishneh. Do not, meaning the people of what they do is they're always walking back and forth. So if you're going to start sitting in a public place and start learning, every 2 minutes they're going to stop you. You go to a place every 2 minutes, they're going to stop you. They're going to talk to you. They're going to, you want to learn, sit down and learn. But if they're going to stop bothering you all the time, you're not going to be able to learn properly. Number 2, this is Rabbi Akiva to Rabbi Yoshua, his son, right? Rabbi Akiva is giving this advice to his son how to learn Torah. So he told them, don't learn Torah in a public place that they're going to stop you every single 2 minutes. Number 2, do not live in a city where the heads are Talmidei Chachamim. Right? Why? Right? Listen to this. Musar Askel. If the heads are Talmidei Chachamim, they're going to be so busy in their learning, they're not going to have time to be osek in Sorchet Tzibur, which means that everything in the city is going to be lacking. Because, you're going to say, what about this? They're learning. What about this? They're learning. They never have time to do anything of the city because they're learning. So don't live in a city where the heads are Talmidei Chachamim, because if not, nothing's going to get done. Yeah? Number 3, Al tiknes vetcha pitrom. Never go into your house immediately without knocking on the door or mentioning your arrival because of tzniut reasons. Okay, that's why it says over here, it brings a proof from the Kohen Gadol, that he had the pa'amonim, the bells, in order to go even into the Kodesh Kodashim and all these things, because it was always like to tell everyone, look, the bells were ringing, and therefore they were, everyone knew that he was coming. Kol shekel levecha, the more so your friend's house, meaning if you cannot come and do this to your own house, meaning even to your own house, don't just open up the door, knock. Yeah, you knock and then you go into the house, right? Or you tell everyone that you're coming, you're on your way, right? Fine. Number 4, al timna min alai min raglecha. Yeah, it's a person should not walk barefoot. So don't be without shoes. Number 5, ashkem ve'echol b'kaitz mipnei hachama uvechoret mipnei hatzina. Try to be makpid always to eat arucha boker, breakfast, early. Try to be strict on that. Why? Because then your body will be strong and be saved in the summer because of the sun, and in the winter because of the cold. 6, Make your Shabbat chol weekday and do not require for the people, which means don't start coming and asking for tzedakah. It's not a good thing. Okay? Number 7, try to always do partnerships with people that they have a good mazal. Yeah, that the mazal is with them. Yeah, what does that mean? Right? You see somebody that the mazal is with him, boom, do a business with them. I want to do a partnership. Yeah, why? Because if the mazal is with him, it's going to be good for me as well. Yeah? So if anybody knows of any partnerships, let me know. Yeah? Fine. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, yeah, lo lemizban mineh velo lezabunele. The kavanah of Rabbi Akiva that you should do a partnership with someone that the Shah Mesachekelo, which means that he's got a good mazal right now. It's not the kavanah to buy from him, or right, the kavanah is to sell with him. Ela lemevad shutafut ba'adeh, but make a partnership with him. Meaning it's not the concept of buying and selling from him, because that didn't affect me. It's making a partnership. I become your partner. Okay? And now that Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak says, what does it mean in the pasuk? Ma'aseh yadav birachta? Right? The kavanah of the pasuk, and he says, what? Your actions of your hands, you blessed? So he says, Kol hanotel pruta mi'Iyov mitbarech. Anybody that's going to take a pruta from Iyov is going to get a bracha. Afilu lemizba minelu zabune leshapir dames. So then it's going to be good even to buy from him or to sell to him. Right? So therefore it comes out that it's going to be everything. Why? Once he has a good mazal, it's going to be on everything. So even if you buy from him merchandise, that merchandise will have a special bracha that will be good. Chamisha dvarim tziva Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. There were 5 things that Rabbi Akiva commanded his student, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Keshaya chavush bet asurim, when Rabbi Akiva was in jail. Remember, towards the end of his life, he was in jail, and that's when they took him out to get killed. So there were 5 things that he told his student. Amar lo, he told him, Rebbe lamedeni Torah, teach me Torah. Amar enim lamedecha, I'm not going to teach you. Right? Why? Because maybe they're going to catch you as well, and then they're going to kill you as well. Amar lo, if you're not going to teach me, ani omer li Yochai haba umosercha lemalchut. So I'm going to tell Yochai, my father, and he's going to give you over to the kingdom. He says, Yochai haba, he says, Milchot Morav, the father, you're not allowed to mention your father's name even when he's not in front of him. But the Gemara from here says that if you say Abba and then the name, then you're allowed to. So for example, I'm not allowed to say my father's name, right? But I'm allowed to say Avimori Moshe. Why? Because once you add a To'ah, once you add this title of respect, right? And you say Avimori Ateret Roshi, or whatever it is that you say Avimori, my father, my master, so then you're allowed to say the first name. And that's where do they bring that proof from? From what we just read. He said, Yochai Abba, Yochai my father. Right? What does that mean? Even though Rabbi Akiva was already in jail, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai was coming and telling him that he's going to give him over for something even more strict. Now, obviously, it wasn't, he wasn't going to give him over to the Malchut, obviously. Right? He just did that because he just wanted to show him how important it was for him to come and for him to learn Torah, right? That's why it was so important. Okay? So he says, if you're not going to teach me, he says, Bini, my son, are you listening to this important message? More than that which the egel, the calf, wants to feed, the para, the mother, wants to give its child to feed. Which means more than what you want to learn Torah, I want to teach you the Torah. Okay? Amarlo, so he said, right? Amarlo, he says, Uni b'sakana, v'lo egel b'sakana. Who's in the sakana? The egel is in the sakana, not the para. So therefore, what's your problem? Yeah? So he comes and he says, Amarlo, so he told him, Im bikashta lechanek, hitale b'ilan gadol. If you want to say things which are going to be received upon the tzibur, right? Learn it from an Adam Gadol and say it in his name. Meaning, if I'm just going to come and say it in my own name, who's going to listen to me? But if I want them to listen to me, what am I going to do? I'm going to ask somebody great, and I'm going to be Tole Bilan Gadol. I'm going to depend it upon somebody great, and then they're going to listen. That's number 1. So therefore, if you want to see something over and you're afraid, maybe they're going to accept it, not going to accept it, make sure that they're going to do it. Make sure you're going to hear it and then say it over in the name of somebody great. Number 2, Kishatam lamed bincha. When you're going to come and you're going to teach your son, lamedeu besefer mugah. Teach him from a sefer which is mugah. What does it mean, mugah? That you already know that they went over it. They did hagaot. They went through it properly. Okay? Maihi, what is that exactly? Amar Rava says, Meshashe bechata with a new one. Or Sheshabashta kivan dal al, because once the mistake comes in, he remembers it, which means that many times people, they make a mistake. For them to change that mistake, it's very, very difficult. I remember when I learned my Bar Mitzvah parasha, I made 3 or 4 mistakes. You don't know how many years it took me to change those mistakes. Because once I learned the dikduk and I learned the mistakes, but you learned it so many times with a mistake and you said it so many times with a mistake, without realizing it, you already know it's a mistake, but you'll still do the mistake. Why? It got ingrained in you. So therefore, you always have to be on guard until you change it. But it takes time. So that's what he's saying here. Once the mistake comes in, it's very difficult. Number 3, do not cook in a pot that your friend cooked in. Listen to this Gemara. Do not cook in a pot that your friend cooked in. What does that mean? Gerusha b'chaye bala. Do not get married to a gerusha, to a divorced woman, in the life of the husband. Because basically, don't cook, right? And we know what cooking refers to here, right? In the pot that your friend cooked, right? The Amar Mor Bazmor says, Garush shenasa gerusha, when you have a divorced man getting married to a divorced woman, arba deot b'mita, there are 4 deot in the bed, okay? So therefore, in order to keep everything clean, don't do that. Or afilu be'almana, even in an almana, even with a widow. Lefi she'en kol ha'etzbaot shavot, because not all the fingers are the same, yeah, or the like. Obviously, that's a hint to something else, and therefore, what he's trying to say is that even an almana, right? Because you're going to come and say, right, that at the end of the day, it says over here, it could be that she's going to be mizalzel in him or she's going to hate him, which means that the second that there was something which preceded, which could cause type of an agony or type of suffering or pain, that in itself is not good. So therefore, don't cook in a pot where your friend cooked. Okay? Fine. Next, mitzvah veguf gadol. If you want to do a mitzvah and also, right, and you want to get money, ochel perot velosh sachar. Right? What does that mean? הלווה מאוד לחברך כנגד משכנתה של קרקע שלו, אוכל פירות הקרקע במשך כמה שנים, ונאכל לו דבר מועט מן הדמים. What do? You lend out money to somebody, and he's going to give you as a collateral his field. In the field, there's fruits. So what are you doing now? You're eating part of the fruits every single time, and you're deducting part of what he owes you, but you're eating fruits. So therefore, you're doing a mitzvah, you're lending money, right? But you're also getting from it. Number 5, mitzvah veguf tahor, right? If you want to do a mitzvah and also get to purity, nosei isha velo banim, right? Get married to a woman. And what does it mean here, velo banim? 2 pirushim. Velo yiyu banim minisuin ne'elu. So you're doing the pirya v'rivya. So you have the thing, velo banim, if you already have banim. That's the explanation. Okay, so that was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai with Rabbi Akiva. Arba'at vanim tziva Rabbeinu HaKadosh b'nav. There were 4 things that Rabbeinu HaKadosh commanded his children. Right? Number 1, al tadur b'shachnetziv mishum deletzenevu. Do not live in this city called Shachnetziv because they're mockers. Right? Umashchulach beletzanuta. If you live amongst mockers, you will be drawn to the mockers. Number 2, v'al teshev al mita aramit. Right? Do not sit on a bed of a goya aramit. He says here, some people say, do not go to sleep without kriyat shema l'mita, just like the Ramim do. And some people say, do not get married to a gioret. Right? Why? Because maybe what's going to happen is that you're going to say something bad about the goyim in front, and then she's going to become embarrassed. Right? There's also another explanation, but this Gemara is also brought down in Masechet Barefoot. I think it's Chet Amubet, this concept. Yeah, Chet Amubet. So there, I don't remember if it was there was somebody, I don't remember the back of the Gemara that he explains that the reason why is because when they say that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so sometimes they still have something which clinging on, and therefore if the person goes, he could, he'll, whether it's him or his children, might get influence from it. Some people say aramait mamash. We're not talking about not getting married to a Yoret or not coming and saying Kriyat Shema. We're talking about mamash, do not sit down on the bed of a Aramit. Why? Because of the story of Rav Papa. And what happened was that Rav Papa went to the house and they told him to sit down. He didn't sit down, but there was a dead baby underneath. So they were going to frame him that he was the one that killed it, right? If he would have sat down. So because of that story, it was mamash, because of that. Number 3, Al tavriach atzmecha min hameches. Dilma meshakhu lech, shakli mina kol dil lecha. Don't try to be mavriach min hameches. Don't try to hide things from the aduana, from the customs. He says, why? Because maybe they're going to catch you and then they're going to take everything that you have anyway. Right? That means the knas is not just taking that away from you. The knas is taking everything from you. Right? So it didn't start just from today. It started many years ago. Yeah? It says number 4, do not stand in front of an ox and when it's coming up from the swamp, because then the Satan is dancing in between his horns, which means that he's mishtagya, so he could come and he could start, damaging or doing certain things. Okay? Amar Rav Shmuel says Rav Shmuel, Beshor Shachor, we're talking about a black ox, Uvyomen Nisan, but only during the month of Nisan. Look how apropos this is. This is tomorrow's daf, which is Erev Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Here it says in the footnote that after the winter already finished, so therefore it starts the spring. So the shor comes and he sees that it's full of all this beautiful grass and everything, right? So therefore he says, so all of a sudden he wants to come, damaging. That's what happens. Okay? Tani Rav Oshaya went and he taught, you have to distance yourself from a regular ox, which is a short tam, which means that it never gored or whatever it is, for 50 amot of distance, 25 meters. Shor muad, but if a shor muad, you have to distance yourself, which is an habituous gore, an ox that gores, kimlo enav, as long as you could see it. Meaning, 50 amot, you can't see it anymore. You have to distance yourself. Okay, Tana Mishmed Rabbi Meir, the Torah Rabbi Meir, Resh Torah Bedikula, even if the head of the ox is found inside of the basket, which is full of grain, right? And he's sakle igra ushte darga mitutach. Go up to the roof and take away the ladder from underneath. Why? Don't depend upon because it's got his head inside of food. Not because of that, it's not going to damage. Be very, very careful. Okay? Amar Rav, says Rav, Niza de Torah, the ge'ara which is fitting for the short is hen. Niza de Aryeh, the ge'ara of the Aryeh, to get him off, is zeh. Niza de Gamla v'gamal is da. Niza de Arba, right, of the Sfina, right, they're pushing, is hilni haya, hilni v'ilu kulya. Interesting. That one I don't know what it is. Basically, if you want to get rid of one of these things, you have to scream it. So imagine right now you find a lion, so you have to start screaming, zeh. You start screaming it, and then that's to get rid of them. Amar Abaye says, or dag vekos chamin ubeitzim v'kinim levanim kulan kashim ledavar acher. All these things are bad for tzarat. They cause tzarat. So it's skin, fish, hot water, eggs, white lice, right? So I guess now we're going to explain one by one, obviously. Or, what does it mean by skin? If somebody's going to lie down on leather, right? That they didn't finish the processing. So that's not good. That's bad for tzarat. Dag, what type of a fish? Shibuta. The shibuta is a very, very big type of fish, which is kosher, but it's not good because of tzarat. Biyomei Nisan, we're talking about the big fish during the month of Nisan. Kos, what are we talking about? The cup of kos chamin. Kos and chamin were two different things, right? When we read it above, it said here kos maim chamin. Now it's just splitting it up. Kos is shiurei kasa dirsena, is the leftovers of a kos that had, right, the different types of small fish, like the fish brine. Chamin, which is the hot water, is chamini de chamim mishadi leveh, which is somebody that's always pours hot water on his flesh. So if a person always comes and takes a bath with hot water, it's not good. Yeah? Beitzim. What is beitzim? If somebody is going to start walking on eggshells, that's the expression, but that's what it says here. It's not good. Okay, it's bad for tzarat. Kinim levanim, somebody that's washing his clothing, that's dirty of kinim. Now he didn't wait for the 8 days and then he put it on again. Wow. This is the concept that's already brought down in the Gemara about the 7 days. If I remember correctly, even until today, they have the concept of the lice of 7 days. So here it says he didn't wait until the 8th day to put it on because it's 7 days until for it to die, no? That's what, okay. Bar yanhanach kinim, right? Those are the kinim that they come back again, and it's going to be bad for tzarat. Amar of Papa says, Beita dit be'shunra, a house that has a cat, lo neil be'inshe v'lo masane. A person should never go inside without shoes. My tama, what's the reasoning? Because remember, cats eat snakes. Cats do not get affected by venomous snakes. They eat snakes. Okay, so the venom of a snake cannot affect the cat. The eat bay. So what happens? He comes and he eats snakes. The eat bay bechivya garme ketine. Now the nachash has small little tiny bones which are finished after the cat eats it. V'yativ la garma bechivya, right? Akare. Now, if you're going to see that if it's going to be the etzem of the nachash is going to go when the person's walking barefoot and it's going to go into his foot, lo nafik v'istakilne, it will not come out of his foot and it will become a very big sakana. So if a person has a cat in the house, never go barefoot. Always have to go with shoes. Okay? Ika de'amni, some people say, beita delepe shimre, a house that does not have a cat, lo neil be'in shebe'achra, right? Do not go inside of it when it's dark. My time, what's reasoning? Dilma michrach bechiv lo misakam, because maybe there's going to be a snake going around somewhere and he's going to become in a sakana. And you don't know. So, how's he going to go inside this house, right? If there's no cat, right? Well, again, we're talking about the darkness, because if there's light, you could see a snake, obviously. Next. There were 3 things that Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yosef went and he commanded to Rabbi. Yeah? Maihi, what is it? What is the covenant of the tzava? Al tasmum be'atzmecha. Do not make a blemish in yourself. So he says, Maihi, what does that mean? Lo te'avi lach dina behadet tlata. Right? Do not have a din with 3 people against you. Because then what's going to happen is that one of them is going to become your baldin against you, right? You're basically the guy that, you're opposite, the one that goes against you, and the other 2 are going to become witnesses. So therefore, don't do that. Okay, that means if you already have a thing of money, make sure it's you against 1 or against 2, but never against 3. Okay, number 2. Halakha number 2. Right? So this, by the way, my daughter actually asked me this Gemara yesterday. We were talking about ona'ah. So she asked me, you finished Pesachim? I told her, no, we're almost finishing, but this is what she told me, what she asked me yesterday. Al ta'amod ala mekach b'shah she'lecha damim. Do not look to buy something if you don't have the money to buy it. Why? Because then the people, imagine right now, you have somebody that has a store. You walk into the store and you start pretending that you want to buy something. They got all excited. And then after all that, nothing. Wallo. You just took down their entire hopes. It's called ona'ah, right? So you can't do that, right? Ishtecha tavla al tizakek lalayla rishona, right? Also, im ishtecha tavla, so do not al tizakek la the first night. Okay, so the Gemara is going to say, Amar Rav uvnida doraita. No, we're talking about nida doraita. Because once you have mayam patuach, that the mekor, right, is open, so therefore dilma mashcheziva. So then it could be that it's going to continue. So you have to be careful about that. Okay, Shlosha dvarim tziva Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda at Rabbi. There were 3 things that Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda commanded Rabbi. Al tetzei yechidi b'layla. Do not go by yourself at nighttime. Al ta'amo b'fnei ner arom. Do not go in front of a candle without clothing. Ve'al tikanes lemilchatz chadash shema tipachet. Never go inside of a new bathhouse because maybe all of a sudden the floor will sink in, it will cave in. Okay? Ad kama. So when is it considered a new bathhouse? 1 year. So imagine they made a new bathhouse. Until 1 year, do not go in the bathhouse. Why? Because maybe with the heat and with everything that's going on and people and everything, all of a sudden, boom, collapses. So you have to be careful. Okay? Then it says, the Tanya was going to write, maybe if a person goes in front of a candle, right, without clothing, he will have epilepsy. Right? That, the concept of fear. If a person is going to come and have relations, right, with the oraner, with the candles, yulo banin nichpin, he will have children which are like limping. They have. So here it says the sakana is only if she could become pregnant of that. time. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the right time. If a person is going to, right, have relations when the child is on the bed and he's sleeping, that child will become nichbeh. When we say this, if he wasn't, right, 1 year old, but if he was a 1 year old, there's no problem. We didn't say if he's going to be shochev by the legs, but if he's going to be by the head, there's no problem. We didn't say this if he didn't put his hands on top of him. But if he put his hands on top of him, there's no problem. Okay? What does it mean that you shouldn't go outside by yourself at nighttime? The person should never go outside by himself, not on Tuesday nights or on Friday nights. If you remember, right, it says over here, because of agarat bat machalati, and there's going to be 180,000 malachei chabala coming out at night. Right? And each one has a reshut to come and do things. So basically, imagine, this was the agrat bat machalat. You remember we learned this, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, about the different names of the demons, and we said agrat was one of them. So this was agrat bat machalat. And all the malachei chabala, look, they all come out. Yeah? That's why you have to be very, very careful of malachei chabala. Yeah? Mi'ikar avashchiche, it says over here, kol yom, at the beginning, they were actually found every single night of the week. So every single night of the week, you had these malachei chabala. Zimna chada paga Rabbi Chanina Mendoza. Once he found, right, Rabbi Chanina Mendoza, Amra le, so she told them, Ilav de machrazan alach b'rakia, if it wasn't for the fact that they say in the firmament, in the heavens, he's a haru bechanina of Torato, be very careful with Rabbi Chanina and his Torah, sakanticha, I would have already put you in danger. Meaning she was warned from the Shamayim to be very careful not to touch him. But he actually went out by himself. So Amarla, he went and he said, if I'm so important in the heavens, I make a decree. This is the decree that we spoke about a few days ago. Rav Chanina, right? Rav Chanina Mendoza. He went and he said, he made the decree, you're never allowed to come in the Yishuv le'olam. You're never allowed to come in the Yishuv. You're not allowed to come in the places where people live. Okay, Amrale, so she told him, please, leave me something. A little bit of something. So he left it, he said, you know what? The night of Shabbat or the night of Tuesday nights, I'm going to leave it for you. Another time, Abaye was with Abaye. Amrale, she went and she said, if there wasn't the fact that they said in the Rakia, he's Zero ben Nachmani, be careful with Nachmani. Right, that was his nickname, if you remember. I would have put you in danger. Amarla, he told her, if I'm so important in the heavens, the same thing, that you'll never come in the Yishuv at all. Okay, so the Gemara says, Haka Chazina Davra, 1 second, but it did come. Right? That means we do see that sometimes they come to the Yishuv. So he comes and he says, Amri, they said, Hani, these ones, he says, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 113a1, Kaziataninu. These are mazikim that they go in the Mavot Shvila Kramim, right, which is permitted. And the Shamte Susaya Vatudavlulu, which their horses just go and they ran away into the Yishuv, so the mazikim come to take back their horses. And that's why they're coming to take them out. Fine, Bezat Hashem, we continue on Sunday, Bezat Hashem.